everyone, and welcome to Cant Sports, and it's our college post-game final one for the year, unless we do the bowl games, which we only have one, because we're going to start with the more disappointing half of the week before we get into the more exciting half. Michigan State losing to Rutgers 41-14. Very disappointing. They had their very good chance to be 500 and make a bowl game, and they decided to completely fall apart in the last game of the year. So their offense was not great. Childs 13 for 23, 150 yards and a TD. They ran for another 126 with another rushing TD in there. But besides that, they could not hold Rutgers and ended up having a losing season.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was kind of rooting for them too to end up 6-6 and have something to, at least feel good about going into next year. And they should feel good. I think they're in the right direction again. I think they just had a bad game. They're still not. I think Smith is going to, get them where they need to be. Unfortunately, like I said, Childs said some things after the game about the fans, and even though it might be true, I personally agree with that. You can't say it. There are a lot of things in life you can't say, especially as an entertainer or a sports person or something, because people are just going to run with it and make you look like a jackass. But in my honest opinion, you shouldn't care about what the fans think. You got to worry about your own mental well-being. These are kids, and show some toughness. I feel bad for some of these kids and stuff like that in these situations because, I don't see Childs ever playing in the pro. So this is his experience, and, he shouldn't care what the fans think. He just goes out there and gives everything he got, and that's all that matters.
So we'll see what happens next year. Again, it is an improvement. They did look better this year. They could very much have a better season next year, and we'll probably take a look at that soon, just because we can look at the schedule for next year, just not when they're playing them. But we'll Michigan State is on the up and up. We'll see what improvements they make in their offseason. Again, they miss a bowl game, so they got a long offseason now. But they just got outplayed by Rutgers, who is, again, on the up and up. They started the year 4-0, 5-0 before they got all their losses. So Rutgers is also on the up and up playing well. The whole Big Ten overall, besides Purdue, Purdue and Northwestern kind of is on the up and up and playing a little bit better football.
Right. There's a lot of parity in the Big Ten.
So,
few teams that stand out. But, yeah, Rutgers and State are probably very similar.
So, overall, we'll see what ends up happening. I'm not going to say it's a bad year for Michigan State, but it wasn't the best year they could have had because there was a couple games they probably should have won, and they ended up not winning. But we'll move on to the more exciting half of the week, and one we have a lot more to talk about because we didn't expect it to happen. No one expected it to happen, but you kind of called it with your predictions. You said it was going to be a blowout by Ohio State, or Michigan was going to win by barely anything.
Right.
With a very low-scoring game, and that's what happened. 13-10, ended up winning. They only won because of poor coaching in the end of the game by Ryan Day and the fact that their kicker missed multiple field goals.
Yeah, again, I feel terrible for that. Even though I'm ecstatic Michigan won, I would have bet a month's salary that would not have happened. It is just crazy that they did not. That Ohio State lost. It's just nuts. It makes no sense. I can't. A lot of people are going to try to, analyze it and all that stuff. I really don't care what game plan Ohio State had.
They failed.
They should have won.
They failed.
Right.
Ohio State was favored to win the game all the way up until the fourth quarter, where Michigan finally took over the favoritism and winning.
With 2 minutes left.
And it was actually the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Really?
At what mark did it switch? At the beginning of the fourth, is when it switched over. Michigan had a 61% chance to win at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Ohio State had the highest percentage all the way up until then. They basically, there's been a trend when it comes to this game of whoever runs the most wins the game. And that continued with this game. Michigan ran for 173 yards compared to Ohio State rushing for 77. They both, Ohio State dominated the air with 175 yards compared to 62. Your quarterback only threw 62 yards, and you beat Ohio State.
Like I said, I wish there was a. The only thing I could say is Michigan's defense played a
They
hell of a
played
game.
great.
Played.
You
This has to be, in my opinion, in all the years I've watched this thing, and I watched it through the whole bowl era, the biggest Michigan victory ever over the 69, over any of the other ones. This is by far, like I said, the greatest Michigan victory over Ohio State.
and turnovers were a big thing on both teams. I think 3 of the interceptions happened in the red zone. I think 2 of them happened pretty close to the goal line. And then you had one by Michigan that was at Ohio State's goal line that they threw the interception.
Right.
So Ohio State beat themselves, and it is surprising to see Michigan win because we didn't expect it. Now they have a winning record on the year. We thought they were only going to have 500.
They're one away from what I thought they'd be, 8-4, which I thought was acceptable. They're only one away from that. They beat their 2 biggest rivals of the year.
It's a win on the year. What else can you say?
That's the funny thing about this game is that this means so much to each fan base that despite the records, despite where your team is at, if you win this game, the season's not a failure.
But
that kid for Michigan who would have went down is probably one of the worst quarterbacks, despite all their talks about him overcoming cancer and all that other stuff. He would have went down as the worst quarterback in Michigan history, probably, or one of the worst. And now,
he beat Ohio State.
Back and he could say, "I beat Ohio State in the greatest game we've ever played." It was just like, even though he played like total garbage, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm glad for him. I'm happy for him. I feel bad for the Ohio State kicker because I'm sure. I hope they don't treat him badly. He's just a kid, and he made a couple bad kicks. That's it. In the bottom line of it all, it doesn't matter. And I'm sure he feels horrible. But I just think it's a great.
And the other thing, you can't even say it was the kicker's fault because, again, it comes down to that last 30, 40 seconds of that game where you gave Michigan a first down to waste more time off the clock.
I know they're just going to be looking for excuses or something, and it's just right. I mean,
he called 2 timeouts in a row, gave himself a defensive penalty, gave Michigan an extra first down near the goal line so they could run off more time off that clock because they probably weren't getting in the end zone, but they weren't going to throw the ball again down there because they were confident. Just let's get the time down and throw our defense back out there and hope.
Right. I mean, by that point, I know most Michigan fans probably didn't feel that way, but I didn't even care. We were in the game at Ohio State in the Horseshoe, and if we had lost by
with one of the worst Michigan
whatever,
teams in the past 10 years,
I still would have felt good. I would have been like, geez, it was
Ohio State
amazing.
Lost to one of the worst Michigan teams.
Right.
In like the past 10 plus years.
Right. And you can't do that.
And you can't do that. As Ohio State, you can't do that. And now the question goes, is Ryan Day going to get fired? We said yes. And I think he deserves to be fired. He's still signed through 2026. So he still has 2 years left. But his record against the rest of the Big Ten is only 1 loss. It's like 37-1 or something like that.
Right.
But against Michigan, he's 1-4.
I kind of backpedaled on that because I didn't know what the buyout was for him. I don't see them buying him out. It's something like $32 million or something like that. I don't know. It's just, and like you said, he has a great record.
It's only against Michigan. Rivalry. Outside of Michigan, he is 37-1 in the Big Ten or something like that.
Somebody like that.
He has only lost once inside the Big Ten outside of playing your biggest rival, and then he's 1-4 against your biggest rival.
So now that certainly will play, against him because, like I said, this game just seems to mean so much.
But this game also does another great thing for Michigan. It doesn't even matter that you won. The recruiting that's going to come out of this game.
Right.
because you just beat a number 2 team.
And you just got a 5-star, the number 1 quarterback in the country coming into Michigan next year.
So
Apparently, at this point, if he
and
doesn't change his
you're going to
mind
probably
again.
get some other recruits willing to commit
Right.
because you just took down the number 2 team.
Right.
And all we need is an offense. You don't even need a defense. Your defense did good this year. I don't care what anyone really
Your
says.
defense played phenomenal.
Throughout
I
the
heard
whole
some guy
year.
on a Ohio State podcast. I don't know if I agree with him this much, but he said that we had the number 1 defensive line in the country. I'm not sure about that, but it certainly is really good.
Not a lot of teams scored more than 3 possessions this year. The highest total against you was Oregon, putting up 38. And that's the number 1 team in the country.
Number 1 team in the country.
Texas, number 2 currently,
and a
put
lot
up
of the
31.
And there are a lot of reasons anyone scored on us at all was because our offense would turn the ball over so much, and it was just so awful that our defense couldn't keep up with a team like Oregon.
If you fix the offense,
I can't. The game plan for Ohio State didn't make much sense to me, but a lot of people said it was because Ryan Day wanted to show he was tough or something like that. So he
probably wanted
instead
to run
of
up the
playing
score.
to his strength, which is, did he throw the ball deep at all?
I don't know if he did, but
I don't think
more.
he did. And he has phenomenal wide receivers. I don't get it.
But good year for Michigan. Now we could say good year for Michigan, great year for Michigan.
Sit there and say, yeah, the year.
Good job.
You beat.
We'll do a full-on year review for both teams. Kind of look at next year's schedules too. We'll probably talk about whatever bowl game Michigan's in. It'll probably still be like the Cheez-It Bowl or something like that.
Yeah, it'll be crap.
Some stupid bowl, but we'll talk about it just because. Yeah. But we'll go on a whole season figuring out what went wrong, what went good for both teams, and we'll carry on from there. But with all that being said, if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, share the video around. Let us know what you think about this week's college games. And until next time, see everybody soon.